She turned a smelly, worthless piece of plastic into one of the most famous products in America. She became the first woman ever on the cover of BusinessWeek, and then the man who owned the company fired her, kept every dollar, and tried to erase her from history. This is the story of Brownie Wise. Nearly every home in America once owned what she sold, and yet almost no one remembers her name. Brownie Mae Humphrey entered a world defined by instability on May 25, 1913, in the small town of Beaufort, Georgia. Her father, Jerome, was a plumber, and her mother, Rose, made hats. It was a modest, fragile existence that shattered completely when her parents divorced. Her father walked out, leaving Rose to support the family. To survive, Rose took a job as a traveling labor union organizer, a role that kept her constantly on the move, speaking at rallies and leaving her young daughter behind. For much of her childhood, Brownie lived near Atlanta with an aunt who worked as a dressmaker. Surrounded by scraps of fabric and the hum of a sewing machine, she watched her aunt craft elegant garments for wealthier women, catching early glimpses of a more refined, comfortable world. This patchwork childhood, split between a nomadic mother and a hardworking aunt, left the young girl with a deep sense of insecurity. She grew up with an intense hunger for stability, beauty, and a life far larger than the one she had been handed. Before she ever sold a single product, Brownie learned to adapt, to dream, and to carefully construct the persona she would eventually present to the world. In the late 1930s, Brownie Mae Humphrey married Robert Wise, and the couple moved north to Detroit, a city built on industrial promise. In 1938, she gave birth to her only child, Jerry, but the dream of domestic security soon fractured. By 1941, the marriage ended in divorce, leaving Brownie alone in a sprawling metropolis, entirely responsible for her young son. To support them, she took a job as a secretary at Bendix Aviation Corporation in Dearborn. Answering phones and managing correspondence in a fast-paced corporate environment gave her an early look at structured operations and office hierarchy. Yet, clerical work offered little room for advancement. To carve out another path, she turned to her pen. Under the pseudonym Hibiscus, she began writing for the experience column in the Detroit News. To her readers, Hibiscus offered warmth, dispensing romance, hope, and unwavering optimism to Detroit's housewives, but this polished public voice stood in stark contrast to her private reality. While her columns painted a picture of grace and light, Brownie was living a far harder truth, navigating the exhausting daily struggle of a single mother trying to keep her family afloat. The divide between the idealized life she put on paper and the grinding uncertainty of her daily life grew deeper, forcing her to refine the very art of self-invention. After the war, Brownie joined forces with her mother Rose in a practical sales partnership for Stanley Home Products. Together they entered suburban living rooms, demonstrating everyday kitchen goods through informal home parties. Brownie possessed a natural knack for connecting with post-war housewives, quickly rising to become one of the company's top sales representatives. In the late 1940s, she encountered a new kind of plastic bowl. It sat completely unsold on department store shelves. Customers found the flexible polyethylene material strange, and the patented airtight seal was confusing to operate without instruction. Brownie realized what traditional retail stores had missed. The product could not simply sit on a shelf. It required a live, social demonstration to show people how to burp the air out of the container. In 1949, she and Rose founded Patio Parties, an independent venture utilizing this highly effective home party format. By 1950, seeking fresh opportunities, Brownie packed up her life and moved to Florida, carrying the secret to selling the future of plastics. By 1951, Brownie's Florida-based home party system was quietly outperforming major department stores. Up north, Earl Tupper watched the sales data with equal parts fascination and frustration. He had tried to launch his own home party division, but it failed. Brownie had cracked the code, he couldn't. Recognizing her strategic brilliance, Tupper made a radical move for 1951 corporate America. He named Wise Vice President of Marketing. She became one of the country's only high-level female executives. But she didn't just accept the title, she demanded a complete structural overhaul. Wise convinced Tupper to pull his products off retail shelves entirely. From her new headquarters in Florida, she redirected the company's entire future, making the Home Party the exclusive engine of Tupperware's distribution. Tupper surrendered control of his sales force to a woman who saw a market he couldn't reach, setting a massive corporate apparatus into motion. Yet, as her influence grew, a quiet tension began to take root behind the closed doors of the executive suite. By 1954, Wise had built a nationwide network of roughly 20,000 independent dealers, distributors, and managers. Most of them were suburban housewives earning their very first independent incomes, finding financial freedom in a world that offered them few choices. Wise gave these women more than a job. She provided a self-help sales philosophy and a proud new identity. To celebrate their success, she gathered her growing sales force at the Tupperware Jubilee, a lavish 4-day Florida convention. The Jubilee was part circus and part revival, featuring costume theme nights, dramatic motivational speeches, and extravagant prizes like station wagons, speedboats, and home appliances. Wise ruled over it all, a charismatic executive who knew exactly how to capture the post-war imagination. Her fame soon spilled onto television talk shows and national newspapers, culminating in the 1954 cover of BusinessWeek, making her the first woman ever featured there alone. To the public, Brownie Wise was Tupperware, but in the quiet offices of Massachusetts, Earl Tupper watched her rise with a growing cold resentment. While Brownie Wise's face smiled from the covers of national magazines, Earl Tupper remained in his Massachusetts office, retreating deeper into the background. He was a deeply private man, an eccentric inventor who despised the spotlight and grew to resent the narrative that a single mother from Georgia had saved his company. As the press credited Wise for Tupperware's multi-million-dollar success, their letters turned toxic. Earl repeatedly refused her requests for company stock, viewing her drive for ownership as a threat to his total control. In one sharp exchange preserved in her papers, Wise wrote that his corporate advice was about as welcome as a first-class case of leprosy. In January 1958, the Cold War in the executive suite ended in a swift, devastating blow. With virtually no warning, Earl Tupper and his board of directors voted to terminate Brownie Wise, removing her from the very empire she had built. Despite transforming Tupperware from a failing experiment into a household giant, Wise possessed no company stock. She had no equity, no safety net, and suddenly, no job. Wise fought back, filing a lawsuit for over $1 million for wrongful termination. But her leverage was gone. She ultimately settled for just $30,000, roughly a single year's salary. Only months later, Tupper executed his final corporate maneuver, selling the entire company to Rexall for $16 million. Wise received none of that massive windfall. Tupper took his fortune, renounced his U.S. citizenship to avoid taxes, and bought a private island in Costa Rica. Back in Florida, the company began systematically erasing her legacy, even burying copies of her self-help book on corporate property. The massive institutional machine she built would march on, keeping all of the rewards, while the woman who designed it was completely erased. Every time an independent creator sells from home, they step into the blueprint Brownie Wise built. Her name was deleted, but her system is our modern economy. The corporation broke her, but her ideas outlived them all. Subscribe to help keep history's forgotten voices alive.